done many spaces in my life. I've done a few here and there. But one of the spaces that I did do, and I've done a few of them actually with this guy, his name is Mark Naughton. He is an independent journalist, a ground truth reporter for the Kyle Seraphin Show, and host of the popular X-based Trump Tuesday, which I did check out for a little bit yesterday, by the way. He's also an 18-year U.S. AF veteran, which I have a lot of respect for, and the current Army officer candidate. Mark Naughton is joining us right now on the show. Mark, good to have you on for the first time. How you doing, my man?
Doing well, Brian. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And knowing that we're probably not going to agree on a lot of things, but still being willing to, come on and have the conversation, I certainly respect and appreciate. And thank you for your service to this country, by the way. All right, I want to get your first reaction to this because I've been having a little fun with it, right? The Herschel Walker, pick for ambassador to the Bahamas. With his history, what are your thoughts on this pick?
I think this pick, I would say a little surprising as far as his history, right? His interactions, the badge thing. Yeah, I understand the eyebrow raising, but I think it's consistent with what President Trump is doing with all his picks. So although each pick in and of themselves has plenty to sort of pick apart and identify and raise the concerns, I think the overarching issue, I don't even say issue, but the theme here is that President Trump is picking people based on results he wants and directions he wants to go, and he's not paying as much concern about the optics or their past or their history. I think he's focused with results and moving forward and people who can carry out his agenda. So not terribly surprising other than the fact that he has a history.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying with maybe a theme and direction, but would you agree with me that somebody's history when it comes to alleged sexual assault, when it comes to lying about being an FBI agent, when it comes to lying about how many children you have, when it comes to lying about paying for his ex-girlfriend's abortion, I mean, would you say that that's more than just, well, a checkered past, but those are serious allegations and lies, and maybe you shouldn't be in a powerful position, even if Donald Trump thinks that this man can put him in whatever direction he wants to put him in. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think sort of back to my original idea here is I don't pretend to know the validity of the allegations, all the allegations, to what extent they're true or untrue. I don't know that, and I would also take a gamble and say President Trump may not know either. But when it comes to President Trump, he is a man who has been accused of things over many years. Maybe some are true, maybe some are not true. But I think that the theme that he does is he looks at what they've done for him, what they may do for him, and if they're willing to face the scrutiny. And President Trump gives a lot of weight to that. Look at his picks. So whether or not I'm concerned, I guess the real issue, the important issue, is the Senate. This is President Trump's second and final term, and those people have to be convinced. I don't think President Trump is as concerned about sort of the resume as he was 8 years ago, Brian.
Yeah, obviously, there's far more. I think we could probably agree on this. There's far more important positions than being the ambassador. For that, what are your thoughts on Pete Hegseth? I don't know what your opinions are on Pete Hegseth. I just think if you want to talk about somebody that has the nuclear codes, right? There's only two people. It would be Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth if he gets this position. Are you comfortable with a guy who some have said that I've worked with Pete Hegseth at Fox News, a man with a drinking problem, a guy who cheated on his first wife with an employee that he worked with, who cheated on his second wife with a Fox News executive, had a baby with her while he was married to his second wife, cheated on his third wife. By the way, he's admitted to this stuff. I mean, is that the type of character that you want as our defense secretary?
I think that we're not. Well, I'll just get right down to business here. That veterans, especially combat veterans, people who have lengthy careers in the military, they have a super high divorce rate. They have challenges with substances. Okay, and I'm not even saying Pete has these things. Okay, but it is extremely prevalent, and these are high performing people who've done high performance, unexpected, sometimes unimaginable, services to this country. So when I hear, a veteran, might have drank or struggled with alcohol, concerning, perhaps, DQing, no, in and of itself, right? These guys go through lengthy processes. Most veterans of any significant time or war are disabled in some capacity,
Yeah.
and I don't think per se that makes him dangerous, right? I know you talked about the nuclear codes, which would be the big concern, right? Is he dangerous, right? I don't think he's dangerous.
Unqualified. I think unqualified would be another word that I would characterize it. Maybe not as dangerous as unqualified, or someone that makes bad decisions in his life. And I think it is just my opinion. I think if you
Yeah.
make a lot of bad decisions in your life, you're probably going to be reckless in the job you're at. And listen,
But maybe,
divorce is one thing. Like you brought up divorce, Mark.
yeah,
I don't attack people, necessarily for getting
me
divorced.
neither.
Um, but that's one thing, right? That's personal. That's a different topic. But what I do question is having a child with a coworker at Fox News when you are married and you're a public figure. What I do question is his decision making and the fact that he paid off this woman to keep her quiet. Now he's claiming he's going to get her out of this NDA. She claimed that he raped her. I don't know if that's true or not. He wasn't criminally charged. Fair game there. But there are people like you and millions of people in this country that I have a lot of respect for that have served honorably. I would imagine you probably don't have women in your life that have accused you of rape. And I think there's a lot more people out there that have served this country like you that would be far more qualified and probably better people than somebody like a Pete Hegseth.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thanks for the appreciation. So yes, fortunately, I have nobody making any complaints upon me for
Right.
rape. I hope that never changes. I try to conduct myself like like a gentleman, okay, in my life.
Mhm.
Uh, but you would know, and I'm not like I said, you and I, but we both weren't there. Okay, only a couple people were. But as he climbs the ranks in television and Hollywood and government, he will expose himself to becoming a larger target. Would he not? I mean, you would agree there. Uh,
Well, sure. A lot of this stuff
Money,
is, yeah.
position,
Yeah.
it makes him a more uh, lucrative target. That happens, and I'm not even discounting the fact that the claims may have validity. Maybe they don't. But people, as they climb the rank professionally and personally and financially, they do become exposed to that. So, so where I kind of stop is I don't know when it comes to those things. So I have to kind of pause and wait for credible evidence to make a decision.
Yeah. Well,
However,
yeah.
if yeah, but if I look at a unique perspective here, is I talk about with Pete Hegseth, people with skin in the game. Okay, he is highly favored amongst people who still serve, people who, although it's not direct command, he has a major influence on policy, military policy, which could affect people's careers and their lives. And he is an Army officer. And to become an Army officer, it is a serious feat, and it's a very special club, right? So, and he ultimately led people on the field of battle multiple times successfully, and
Mhm.
so when I look at that and I say people who have skin in this game, who will actually put the uniform on, arm up, and go in the harm's way, he has a lot of support from there. So I think that is something, Brian.
I mean, yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have support from certain people, sure, but there are also a lot of Republicans, as you know, even some that have said on the record that they have a lot of concerns, even Lindsey Graham, with the accusations. But hey, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. And Matt Gaetz, let's bring him up for a moment here. So we've learned that it appears as though Republicans and Democrats agreed in private, the House committee, to release this report publicly. We also know that Matt Gaetz, Donald Trump, and many hardcore Republicans have been doing everything in their power to make sure this report doesn't become public. It appears as though within a few weeks, this report now is going to be public. And Matt Gaetz put out a very defensive statement on social media today. What do you think this report is going to entail? Do you think the report should become public?
So as the only challenge I have, well, I'll start with the releasing of it, right? The only challenge I have with that is currently the man is not a member of Congress. So I guess I have sort of privacy concerns about the government and Congress releasing something that they have investigated. Sorry if you hear my cat. I'm going from
That's
kitchen
okay.
door. I'll push him out. He's super loud. Here he goes.
No
So
problem.
sorry.
JD Vance wouldn't approve of you having a cat, Mark. I just want to make that public. I don't know.
Yeah. So sorry. So sorry. I
That's
just
okay.
knocked
No
over the cat.
problem. No
Yeah.
problem.
Give me 1 second.
No
But
problem. Go right ahead. I didn't know Mark was a childless cat man. I
no,
didn't know that.
I have sorry about that, guys.
That's
So
okay.
sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, he's something else. He's kind of famous, but okay. So my concern. Let me just turn the light back on. My concern would be there we go. How about that? Now I'm in the saddle. All
There
right.
you go.
Thank you for.
No,
So my
no problem.
concern with privacy, of course, is the situation. Whereas he's currently a private citizen, so for Congress to release information that they've gathered, which I don't know the procedure to which he can even defend himself in the gathering of that information. So
Mhm.
essentially, my concern is it could be sort of a very an accusation on steroids where he may or may not have answered any of the information. So there's concern there. What will be in it, I don't know. But if it's how I describe, which is a one-way, something that can't be answered, I'm not expecting it to be anything other than very damning and very devastating for him. And if you look at the context, the way he pulled out of the nomination, that would be suggestive that it's not good for him.
I would say that he definitely pulled out, and I could make a very horrible joke, but I would never do that because I'm a professional radio person, and I would never do that. All right, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out as well. If you're just joining us, his name is Mark Naughton. He's an independent journalist. I've done some of his spaces before, by the way, with a lot of MAGA supporters in there that have attacked me, but I actually enjoyed it, and I thought it was funny. He's a reporter for the Kyle Sarafin show as well, and he served our country honorably. And that's why I want to get to the next part of this interview, because I try to dissect people that I think are decent people, that are intelligent people that I might just happen to disagree with. And you might be one of those people. You're somebody that served this country honorably. This is the part that I just don't understand, and I need you to help me understand this. A man who attacked John McCain, who said he didn't respect him because he was captured. 5-star generals who claimed he called people like you suckers and losers. A man who dodged the military multiple times. Why? Why would you support somebody like that who has really crapped on our military and even publicly has said some things that I think are atrocious, like the statements he made about John McCain? How is somebody like yourself, who served honorably, which I respect, support a man like that? That's the part that I don't understand.
Well, without going quote by quote, right, and context by context, I won't even defend him. I'll just give that up. He said those horrible things. It was so offensive, and people are really taken back from it. And I'm giving you that one, okay, which I don't personally believe, but nonetheless, you have a situation where some people are able to separate that from leadership, okay, from results. They look at the economy, they look at the reduction in wars, they look at, also, like I said, people with skin in the game. He's highly favorable within the military. And maybe, some of those times where he said some of those things, he was pushed, he was pressed, especially the John McCain thing. And we can make excuses for it, or we can simply say there's people that support him regardless of regardless of if he makes some offensive statements, because they look at actions. They look at the military does support him, he supports them, and they're not too taken back by it, Brian.
If he supports the military, then why does it appear like there's going to be major cutbacks in funding for the military? They've been talking about this for the last few weeks. Trump's not even in office yet, and it appears as though there are going to be some major cutbacks. If he supports the military, like you claim, then why would he be okay with this? Why wouldn't he be speaking out against it?
Well, I personally don't know to the exact cutbacks you're talking about, whether it's overall budget or anything, but I do know.
Mhm.
So I don't know that, but I
Okay.
do know that the government that he's trying to form now
Mhm.
is very fiscally responsible. So I don't know his financial plans for the military.
Help me understand that. If he's for, and I've heard this from Republicans a lot, they talk about fiscal responsibility. If that's the case, why did he get his $8.2 trillion in debt? Would you say that's the definition of fiscal responsibility? He got us more in debt in 4 years than Obama in 8. And I'm like, I think to myself, how is that fiscally responsible?
Well, on its face, it probably doesn't sound very responsible. I
Right.
don't know. I don't know to what level of that is
Mm.
sort of an investment. I don't know to what level of that he expects to see a return. I don't know how much of that is debt that was unavoidable per se with COVID. Okay,
Mhm.
so I'm not an economist. I certainly, can work my own little numbers, but anything
Yeah.
above a million is hard for me to fathom. So I can't per se
Yeah.
defend numbers like that, but
Sure.
I do ask the question of how
Mhm.
much was it necessary, how much was unavoidable, how much of it is worthy to call as an investment.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. So you mentioned leadership. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that because, in my opinion, and maybe we have leadership, someone who sets an example for others, right? Um, and when I look at Donald Trump, and again, this is more personal than policy for me, I look at a guy who attacks women on looks, attacking Gold Star
Only
families.
Rosie O'Donnell is the
Yeah.
joke, but
I know
yeah,
that he made that joke, which at the time was funny, and I'm not a big Rosie O'Donnell fan either,
you
by the
had to
way.
laugh.
Yeah, but here's the difference, right? I love going to comedy shows, right? I live in Las
Mhm.
Vegas, Mark, and I love having a good time and joking around. I just don't think a politician, it shouldn't be about a show. And I've been to Donald Trump rallies, as you know, and he's trying to make jokes and taking shots at people. I want to hear about policy. I don't want to hear about Hannibal Lecter. I don't want to hear about electrocuting sharks. I don't want to hear about his nicknames for politicians he doesn't like. I want to hear serious policy stuff. And I don't want to hear lies and promises. You think he's going to end the war in 24 hours? He said that about the war in the Ukraine. It's insane. He talked about lowering inflation for
Well,
years. He's
give him
been
the
talking
chance,
about
right? To make a, I agree, to make a statement, to make a gamble that
that. Hmm.
serious,
Hmm.
uh, you know, I- if it takes 30 hours, he'll be
Yeah.
criticized, right? But I think in reality, we'd probably call that a win, right?
Okay, but Mark,
So,
hear me out. Hear me out on
yeah.
this. 2016, I did give him a chance. I didn't vote for him. I also didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I'm very anti Donald Trump, as you know. And I'm not a big Hillary Clinton person either, but I did give him a chance. First of all, he said he was going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton. That was the first thing he ran on. The second thing he ran on is we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. 6% of the wall was built. Mexico did not pay for it. He never shut down the border. He had the authority to do so. And now he's making more false promises. We've seen what he did in his first administration with false promises. Why should we believe him now, Mark?
Well, so I don't know if it's a true 6% of the wall was only built because a lot of it was replaced. A lot of it was legal wall, as in on paper, but in reality, it was some rickety fence.
But even if
So,
that is true, Mexico
right.
didn't pay $1 for it.
So President Trump, he is a master of speaking to the people, and some of it is more poetic than literal. He does that, and I'm not making excuses for him. But if he can get Mexico to pay in one way or another, whether it's direct payment and purchase of steel, and maybe companies to put it in, that's probably pretty literal. If it's through tariffs or better trade or something like that, which I don't have that answer, but I don't think it's always a fair criticism to take campaign political speech and apply it literal. I don't think it's always fair. I
So if
think
he says,
I think
so if a
results.
president,
Yeah,
so in a campaign, if a president or incoming president or somebody that's running for office makes promises and they run on those promises and they don't fulfill those promises, you're okay with that? For anybody, Democrat or Republican, when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, whether it's in your personal life with just everyday people, more
yeah.
importantly, an incoming president of the United States who says he's going to end the war in 24 hours, who says he's going to fix all of the inflation. And then all of a sudden, after he's elected the other day, he says, well, it's going to be harder than I thought. And it might not be so easy to do it. I mean, shouldn't we hold our politicians to a higher level of fulfilling promises than just spewing stuff out there like I'm going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton? He never did that. Mexico never paid for the wall. He's not going to end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. Inflation is not going to
To
drop
be
down
determined.
because, yeah, listen, I get what you're saying in that, well, it's poetic and this and that, but I just think the words of any politician should mean something, especially the leader of the free world. And I think he just says things that are crazy and that promises that he will never fulfill. That's all.
I don't know if the word, when you asked if I find it okay, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
To say one thing and not to, I don't think okay is the right word. I would say I may find myself understanding. For example, you say you're going to do something and you get involved in a car crash on the way, right? And
Yeah, but that's different, Mark. You know that's
well,
completely. Yeah.
I mean, it's a metaphor, but he has been. How much did he ask for the wall? Do you recall when he said,
I don't
I
I don't recall how much he asked for. I
okay,
just
let's say it's
recall him
100, let's
saying,
say it's 100, let's say it's 180 million, because
mhm,
I really don't recall either. But
yep.
let's say it's 180 million. He had so much resistance from Congress for that figure. And the hard part is when you compare it to just how many checks we give other
Mhm,
countries and
right.
we fund Ukraine. When you compare that number,
Yep.
which I may be wrong on the number, but the point is take that number and compare it to numbers that we're spending elsewhere.
Right.
And it brings a little context. And it's almost like, he's got a lot, he had a lot of obstruction, which included, unfortunately, which is a good argument for his leadership, against his leadership, he had a lot of problems from within. He had a lot of people in his office and his cabinet. He
Well,
had
he
a
said
lot
he
of
only hired
people.
the best people.
Well,
Whose fault is that?
he has also admitted major mistakes in that arena since then, right? That's why I think
I
this cabinet pick is these picks are nothing like they were 8 years
I
ago,
think
Brian.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Mark, and you're gonna disagree with me on this. I think they're much, much worse when you have Tulsi Gabbard, who I believe is a Russian asset, who's failed to call out Assad and praises Vladimir Putin. When you have people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who staged bear murders in Central Park, who behead whales and think that vaccines cause polio. I don't think he's learned his lesson. I think all he's done is he's made sure that he's hired people or appointed people that are going to be loyal to him that are not good for the country. That's my personal opinion. But you mentioned resistance. I don't necessarily disagree with you. He had some resistance. Every president has resistance from the other side. I don't disagree with you at all.
Well,
But
he had
here's
it
my
from
problem.
his side too. He
Yeah,
had, yeah.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you, Mark. But here's my problem with it. Let's be fair and consistent on this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had a lot of resistance when it came to this border wall. MAGA Republicans help, or I shouldn't say border wall, the border deal security, not border wall. And there was give and take. There were MAGA Republicans who helped put this bill together, including Mr. Lankford, who Donald Trump once called the best Republican. He said this, not my words, when it came to border security. They put the bill together, and then all of a sudden, Donald Trump picks up the phone and calls Mike Johnson and other MAGA Republicans and says, don't pass this bill unless it's perfect. So I don't hear a lot of MAGA Republicans saying, boy, that Joe Biden, that Kamala Harris, they had a lot of resistance. Barack Obama had a lot of resistance after the Sandy Hook shooting when he and Joe Biden tried to put comprehensive background checks in place. So I think that the major difference is these aren't faulty, fake promises. Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Kamala Harris and many of the Democrats, and that was going to be my next issue with you, was going to be talking about gun control. They've been talking about this for decades, since you and I were in high school, right, Mark? We're close to the same age. I might be a little older than you. After Columbine, we both agree, Mark. We don't want innocent people to die, right?
Of course not.
Of course not. I know you're a good guy. We don't want, most Americans don't want innocent children to die. But why is it after a school shooting, you hear from the far right thoughts and prayers, we need to harden our schools and make our windows stronger and lock our doors? It's the dumbest stuff I've ever heard in my life. I mean, we can disagree on solutions, but that's just absurd. Doesn't it bother you that Republicans fail to pass any gun legislation on the books that could actually do something?
Well, there's a lot there, but I'd say when you say about the windows and the doors, I don't think that's insignificant, and I'll tell you why. Adam Lanza, Newtown, Connecticut, Sandy Hook shooting. Do you know how he got inside the building? It's okay if you don't.
I think didn't he shoot down a door or something, or a
Yeah,
window?
essentially, he tugged on the door. It was
Right.
locked.
Right.
They tried to speak to him, and he put, I think, one or two rounds through the glass. It shattered, and he
Correct.
walked in and committed his horrific mass murder.
Correct.
So I don't think physical security is not a solution. I don't think it solves all your problems.
Mhm.
Okay, but I don't think that is something to be laughed at. Is talking about physical security of buildings.
Well,
Which,
okay, so Mark, I hear you.
yeah.
Here's what I laugh at, and I hear your point there. Here's what I laugh at. After the Uvalde, Texas shooting, an 18-year-old who just shot his grandmother in the face,
Mhm.
went through the back door of the school. The door happened to be open. And the first thing Ted Cruz starts talking about it, and listen, I make no qualms about Ted. I just think he's an awful human being. He dodged his own state when there was an emergency, went to Cancun. He talked about the back door wasn't locked. And all I'm simply saying is, while I understand your point, yeah, maybe windows could be a little stronger, although I don't know how an AR-15 could stop bullets going through a window unless it's all bulletproof glass. But this young man who was mentally deranged at 18 was able to walk into a store, legally buy a couple of assault weapons and a ton of ammunition. And I just don't hear a lot of solutions from the far right when it comes to this stuff. When from the left, I hear a lot of things that I talk about on this show. I don't represent the left, but comprehensive background checks, red flag laws, raising the age to 18 to 21, mandatory training on how to use a weapon, stronger laws on the books if you're caught with an illegal gun or whether you sell an illegal gun. And why is it the right? I always hear them bragging about their A+ rating from the NRA. I never hear a Democrat bragging about their A+ rating. It's always a Republican. Why have I never seen a Democrat after a school shooting go into the halls of Congress wearing an AR-15 pin? Why is it I don't see Democrats in Christmas photos giving their 3- and 4-year-old children's guns to hold in family photos? I just think there's a sickness in this country, and I can blame both sides for a lot of issues in this country, but not this one. I think the right has failed to produce any real solutions that could save lives in this country, and the left has been pushing them to work with them for decades. Where am I wrong, Mark?
Well, you talk about the sort of the optics of it, your Christmas pictures with your machine guns, right? And wearing the AR-15 pin. And the reason is, Brian, is because those symbols mean something vastly different to the people who are displaying them, to the people who are offended by them. Okay, vastly different. The people with them, it's like, hey, freedom, your fear is not going to interrupt our Second Amendment, is not going to interrupt, or threaten our freedom. And I'm showcasing and essentially flaunting, right? But it's a political statement that says your feelings are not going to trump my rights because I value my rights that much.
I hear what you're saying, but I respectfully, I don't think this is about feelings. This is about saving lives. And I think it's beyond repulsive when somebody walks into the chambers in Congress after a school shooting wearing an AR-15 pen. And I hear from the right all the time, Democrats want to take all your guns away. No, they don't. There's not one Democrat in office that wants to take all your guns away and has never had a policy that, at least in my lifetime, that wants to take every gun off the streets and all. No, assault weapons ban. Sure. There's other things that you and I can disagree with, but I just feel like walking into the halls wearing an AR-15 pin and talking about feelings is not going to make the situation any better. It's only going to make it worse and enrage people even further. I want to hear about solutions, and I just don't hear anything from the right. Give me a solution. Give me something that Republicans have done. You're a Republican. Give me something that Republicans have done in the last 20 years that you think save lives when it comes to gun violence, because I can't think of one thing.
I would say arming more people in schools, right? The right people. Okay, making targets harder and more protected. Okay, I would say that. But look at what the AR-15 pin stuff is doing. Is it's getting us talking, right? If we talk about solutions and everything, with gun violence, many of these crimes. Look at what happened. Look at the assassin in New York, Luigi, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had otherwise, as far as I know, a perfectly clean record, right? He had
Yes.
money. He had everything he needed to
Sure.
go purchase a gun
Sure.
and get one more reliable than he made.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. Why? Because he actually wanted to survive his crime. Maybe wanted to commit more. That's a theory because he didn't ditch the gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, he could have successfully gone through any gun legislation measures that we have and had a better and more reliable gun. But he's a criminal. He chose to commit murder. He had intent, and he was able to do this. So when I think about gun laws, more legislation in an effort to reduce murder, I don't see the trade-off of making more legislation in the hope of getting better results.
All right, so let me
Not
ask
yet
you this
seeing
then,
it.
Mark. You and I,
Yeah.
let's start with where we agree, which I think we will. You agree with me that there's way too many innocent people that are dying from gun violence in this country. Can we agree on that? And it doesn't matter in what state, just way too much, right? Can we
I
agree
don't
on
know
that?
how to measure it, but I don't like it. How about that?
Right. There's a lot of it and we don't want, okay. So my question to you is, if that's the case, which clearly it is based on the statistics, what do we do about it? Do we just raise our hands in the air and say, oh, well, more gun legislation, not going to do any good? Or do we actually do something about it? And if we do, what do we do? I talk about these issues every day, especially since the shooting the other day, which was tragic. What do we do then? Because do you think that more guns make us safer? Because I hear that argument from a lot of people.
I don't think more guns per se make us safer. I think there's actually enough guns in existence to arm everyone, right? So
Right.
I don't think numerically that per se makes sense, at least not literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But I think well, I'm sorry. Where were we? I just
Well,
lost.
listen, I'm just trying to come up with solutions. And even if I disagree,
Oh yes, I got you. Thank you.
even if
Sorry.
I
Thanks for the
disagree
redirect.
with, that's
I
okay.
got the
Even
solution.
if I disagree, even if I disagree with someone else's solutions, at least I say to myself, okay, he's coming up with some things that we might not agree on. But I just don't hear a lot of that from right-wing politicians in office today. I just don't. And I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah. So thanks. You got me back on track.
Yep.
I think about guns, semi-automatic,
Mhm.
fully automatic guns. They've been out for over 100 years.
Mhm.
We've had schools for over 100 years.
Yep.
Okay. We've had students. We've had depression for over 100 years. We've had all the ingredients we've had for these horrible mass murderous events we've had. Okay. So then I asked myself, I said, well, what has changed? And
A
I
lot.
think I think it's society.
A lot.
I think it's how we value life, how we deal with our problems,
Mhm.
how we deal with any number of social issues.
Right.
I think that's the issue. I don't think restricting freedoms. The guns have been around, Brian. The
Musket, yeah,
shooting
but
guns.
technology, as you know, changes, and a lot of these guns are more capable of firing off more rounds and killing more people in a much shorter period of time than when the Constitution was written, when we had something called muskets. Also, I would say social media doesn't help, and a lot of other things, glorifying violence doesn't help either. Maybe we can talk about Elon Musk about that a little bit. But with that being said, technology changes, right? We had muskets. We didn't have AR-15s when the Constitution was written. So if technology changes, where do we draw the line? Are we saying that, well, we should all have the right to have grenades? Should we all have the right to have armed tankers and dangerous machine guns? Of course, there's already that line, but where do we draw that line? You're someone who served this country. I say weapons of mass destruction. Maybe that's a bad term to use, but we're talking about guns right now. Yeah. We're not talking about Kim Jong-un now, but maybe weapons of war is a better term to use. A lot of these weapons were designed not for self-defense, but to kill as many people as possible in a short period of time. I want people like you that have been on the battlefield to have those weapons. I want law enforcement to have those weapons. Why do people need to have assault weapons to defend themselves? Why do people need assault weapons to hunt? I don't understand why we have these. Listen, God forbid, right? We don't want a crazy lunatic going into a school with any gun, right? But I would rather, if I had to choose, not have someone with an assault weapon and have somebody with a different type of weapon that can't fire off all those rounds of ammunition in a shorter period of time. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. So there's a couple problems with that. These are mechanical devices.
Mhm.
Okay. And a semi-automatic can be made fully automatic through changing the physical features inside the weapon. In fact, Matt Platkin, he's the Attorney General of New Jersey, almost a week ago, is suing Glock, the manufacturer, under a consumer affairs approach to his lawsuit, saying the guns are too easy to illegally convert them to fully automatic. Okay. So his attack, and I don't think you mean it, but there are people and politicians. I give you this present example who is trying to ban the sale of Glocks, arguably the most popular handgun currently in America, in the state of New Jersey, because they can be unlawfully converted to full auto. Right. So there, when we talk about assault weapons, that is a very loaded term. It's a very triggering term. I'm not going to put you on the spot and say define an assault weapon, and the reason is you're probably going to struggle with it. Okay, the concept that something is full auto, that's highly regulated in America under National Firearms
Yeah.
Act. Okay, super regulated. These
Yeah.
guns, you can't purchase a new one beyond 1986. Okay, when the Hughes amendment was passed, or Hughes Act rather. So it's taking full auto guns and made them thousands and thousands. A cheap Uzi is 5-6 grand. My point is this: what we have right now, generally speaking, are semi-automatic weapons. The hard part about uh, restricting that is a number of things, but you have the Heller decision, okay, in DC, that
Yeah.
weapons that are in common use and practical, okay, they can't be banned. And if you look at the Second Amendment, which people say, well, it's for well-regulated militia, true, but how do you form the militia, Brian? If you're activated, okay, or I say you're activated, you're not activated, you need to join the militia. Do you want a bolt action rifle, or do you want the most high capacity assault weapon that you can get your hands on?
I don't want everyday people having high capacity assault weapons, but I guess it goes back to my original question that I asked you, which is this. Obviously, you're against an assault weapons ban from what I'm hearing from you. We agree to disagree on that.
Well,
You
it'd
said,
have to be defined before I could
uh,
even make an opinion on it. What
well, I
is an
mean,
assault weapon?
in the biggest mass shootings in this country, right here in Las Vegas, where 61 people were killed, in so many of these mass shootings, like Sandy Hook, like the shooting in Buffalo, where the choice always seems to be an AR-15. And without getting into the weeds on what an assault weapon is or not, I always go back to my original question, without getting into the weeds, which is solutions, right? You're against an assault weapons ban unless it's defined. I understand. And you talked about, listen, hardening our schools, locking doors, and having windows that you can't shoot through. Okay. I don't think that would solve a lot of issues, but it's not like I have a huge problem with that either. What should we do as a country? We both agree we have a major problem in this country with all the gun violence. What do we do? I mean,
Yeah.
that's really the core issue here that I try to talk to people, whether I agree or disagree with them. What do we do as a society? I don't hear a lot of good things coming from the right when it comes to this. If you want to arm security guards in schools, guess what? Don't have a problem with that either. I don't think every teacher should be armed, but that's not going to solve the issues of all the gun violence in Chicago, what's going on in malls across the country and in large gatherings and concerts. So what
Yeah,
do
I
we do?
think.
What do we do?
Well, what I think, right, my opinion is, I think if you want to go bang for your buck, it's not reducing rights. And let's say you even did it successfully. Let's say
Mhm.
you banned semi-automatics, and let's say Australia, like, they turned them in. I don't think it would happen. But even if you did, I don't think that necessarily is the root cause here. I am big on society. You hear the right is, they're going to use the buzzword mental health. Okay. Yes, the country has changed the way it deals with mental health. We don't institutionalize as much. And there was a lot of freedoms. There's a lot of Fourth Amendment issues there. There's a lot to it, right? But I think what they may be trying to say, or at least my own observations, are we have a major societal issue in the
Can I talk
value of
about that?
life.
I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt, but you
yeah,
brought
yeah,
up mental
good.
health, which I agree with you on. Again, here's my criticism. Multiple bills that are attempted to be passed by Democrats, including what Joe Biden tried, I think it was 8 months ago, allocating more funds to help those that are mentally ill. And Republicans always seem to, for lack of a better term, shoot it down. They don't want to put money into helping those that are mentally ill. We could be talking about just basic health care and people with mental issues. And Donald Trump has concepts of a plan. So I don't disagree with you. I think we could all agree, though, if you kill an innocent person or attempt to kill an innocent person, you're probably very mentally ill. We don't want you to get your hands on guns. Then why don't Republicans approve some of these bills that'll allocate funds to help people that are mentally ill? Donald Trump doesn't even have a health care plan in place. I hear bitching and moaning, not necessarily from you, but from many MAGA Republicans about Obamacare, yet he's had 9 years to come up with a health care plan. So if Republicans are serious about mental illness, which I agree with you is a big problem in this country, then why don't they do something about it? They never pass bills with Democrats to help people that need the help, that need health care, that are having issues with mental illness. So when Republicans say, well, this is a mental illness problem, then why don't Republicans do something about it? Democrats they try to pass bills in the legislature every single year to help people that are mentally ill. Republicans always shoot it down.
I think I don't know. I don't know every bill. I've barely read in entirety any in my life. Why? Because they're massive.
Mhm.
So there are some Republicans who will default vote down anything that threatens the Second Amendment. Some
Yeah.
call that good policy. Some want to see a little bit more. The word common sense is attached, which is pretty powerful as far as marketing, right? But there's also
Mhm.
a history on both sides
Yeah.
of filling bills with have beautiful titles
Mhm.
and are flaunted on a solution to usually a very emotional problem, that are filled with pork, filled with things that people don't want, and they don't want to pass and get 10 negative things for one feel good measure. So and that's not me criticizing any particular bill. That's just a mentality. And if you really want to watch it, I don't know the effects of it, but Elon Musk and company are talking about their AI engines, which are going to be able to read through massive, massive bills, which by both sides are largely copy and pastes of things that sometimes take 10, 20, 30 years to get rammed through.
I agree
So
with
so
you
look
that
for that. Look for a change. Look for a change, Brian.
well, in a lot of bills, there might be some pork in a lot of those bills that some people might not agree with. But I would also say that something put in place is better than nothing. And when it comes to mental health, we're talking about healthcare. Mental health is a part of health care. And Donald Trump, again, I'm repeating myself, has had 9 years to come up with a replacement plan, and he still has concepts of a plan. If the Republicans are serious about health care for all and easable access health care and affordable health care for all, where is their plan? He was president for 4 years. I've heard complaints every day. I hear about Obamacare, which, by the way, 20 million Americans plus are on right now. It's not perfect. Our healthcare system is far from perfect. I'd be the first person to agree with everybody on that. But if the main core issue with gun violence in this country, which is at all-time highs, is we're not helping the mentally ill, which I think is a huge part of it, no doubt, where is the replacement plan? I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. I just think it's a
Well,
fair question to ask,
uh, I don't have that answer, and you have a very good question. So, if he has an
Yeah.
excellent, awesome plan, he's not selling it well enough that a radio guy and a
He's not
journalist
giving out the plan.
right, right,
Forget about even selling
right.
it. It'd be
So,
one thing if he was trying to sell a bad plan. At least I'd say it's a plan. He doesn't have any plan. He's asked time and time again. Welker just asked him. He said it again. He has concepts of a plan. Is this a serious lawmaker? I don't think Donald Trump is.
well,
But I mean, like,
he's not
we
supposed to be a lawmaker, but yeah.
the president of the United States helps put certain laws in place or bills or whatever you would.
I'd say guide the country, but go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's an executive.
at least if somebody comes up with something, whether I agree or not, I say at least he's trying. All Donald Trump would need to do is for several hours sit with some of his serious advisors, if he has any, and come up with something. Concepts of a plan. Mr. President, what are we going to do about gun control? Well, I think it's mental illness. Okay. What are you going to do about that? Well, I have concepts of a plan. When you were in high school and your teacher asked for your homework and you said, I have concepts of my homework being done, the teacher would laugh at you. That's why I laugh at Donald Trump. He has concepts of a plan. How could you complain on one aspect about a Democrat policy, but have no plan to fix it? I mean, I don't understand that mentality with Republicans. Obamacare, it sucks. It's terrible. It's this, it's that. But the guy I voted for doesn't have a replacement plan, though. Then why are you complaining about it? I mean, I don't know. That's my train of thought, Mark. I don't know what else. That's my train.
I don't know the depth of his plan, his concept of a plan. I don't know it. Okay, which might be problematic. Maybe that's a limiting fact on my interest. Okay,
Right.
or maybe it's also a problem with him.
Yeah.
Completing it or marketing it.
Right.
I'm not sure, but
I hear you.
I would just as a general concept, though, I'd say this, which is kind of, I think, refreshing, is when he puts these things out to me. I've followed him. I've been all over the country following him. He seems to be pretty open about it, and in this case, perhaps the openness is very frustrating and concerning, right? Perhaps it is. Perhaps he's not lying and blowing smoke up and saying, I got it. It's all going to work out, Brian. Don't worry. I got this beautiful master plan. He might be being straight up and say, I got a concept. I don't know. But the reason I say this is because when he was in the White House, he would televise his important meetings. The one which just never leaves my mind was after the Las Vegas massacre, and he had that open meeting with major players in the government, and he even said things that, with my Second Amendment opinion, I was very concerned. We're going to ban bump stocks. We have to do it. It turns out that that's even unconstitutional. Okay.
And then he went and he saw the leader of the NRA, who no longer is the leader, who stole from the NRA, and he walked back the bump stock thing. And you know more about guns than I do, but
I do, and I don't know the exact walk back, but I'm inclined.
Well, he's against it now. He's against banning bump stocks, and he met with the leader. So he didn't spend a lot of time with the victims' families after that Las Vegas shooting. He did fly out here, and he spent an hour in a hospital. He spent more time speaking to the leader of the NRA at that time than he did victims of the October 1 shooting. And after that meeting, because the reason why they had that meeting is Trump was speaking a tough game about bump stocks. By the way, as you know, anybody at home can make their own bump stock. That's not going to change much of anything.
Well, he did ban them, and it was unconstitutional.
Right. And then he walked that back, and he's changed his opinion on that now. And he met with.
Well, that would make sense if it's unconstitutional. I would hope that regardless of party, okay, that I would have an executive in the White House that doesn't support unconstitutional acts, right?
Yeah.
So that's generally, we can say, hey, you threw an error, okay, but then he still doesn't go after some field. He thought that was a solution, and he was wrong, in my opinion. And it was also unconstitutional.
Perhaps, but again, going back to, you talk about society, and so many of these Republicans in their ads are shooting guns. Many of these Republicans, or at least some of them, Christmas pics with members of their family that are 3 years old holding weapons. I think these are very sick people and very insensitive people. And I don't want to take anybody's right away. You, of anybody, you have should have the more rights than anybody else as far as, the Second Amendment. You risked your life for this country. Everyone should have the right.
I disagree. I would love my neighbors.
Well, everybody should have the right. Maybe I phrased that wrong. Everybody should have the right, as long as you're not a felon and it's not illegal, to defend yourself and purchase weapons. So maybe I phrased that wrong. But in the same aspect, well-regulated militia, I have a problem with an 18-year-old that has never learned how to fire a weapon, no training, might be mentally deranged, no comprehensive background check, buying a weapon, purchasing a weapon. I have a problem in some states where you can actually sell a weapon to somebody else, not even knowing anything about that person, and just sell them a weapon, not knowing whether they're a criminal, not knowing whether they're a felon. In some states, you can do that. We need comprehensive background checks. 80% of the country agrees, but I think I've kept you on way past your bedtime, so to speak. We've been on for a while. It's a really good conversation, Mark. I really do appreciate you coming on. I got to take some phone calls, but I want to give you the opportunity again to talk about your space that you do every Tuesday and how people can follow you on social media, if you can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Loved coming on. It was a great convo. I appreciate it. So you guys can follow me on X, right? Formerly Twitter, at Mark Naughton 9. It's right there. And I do host a weekly space called Trump Tuesday. It's all things social, legal, and political about Trump. We bring on big guests, okay, Trump related people, and we dissect it. And the audience is largely pro-Trump, but and so are my hosts. But I really like to say that it's social, legal, political. Love the dialogue. Come in. We'll give you a mic at some point, and opine, and whatever you want to do. We like live discussion. So
I got to do one of those again one of these days. I got to do it. I know I have a lot of fans in some of your spaces, so I got to do one of those again down the road. Mark, in all seriousness, thanks so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Your friend David Pollack comes on a lot. He's a great guy, and always appreciate the conversation. Mark Naughton, everybody, thanks for your time, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, you too. All right, there you go, ladies and